another edition of 100 Days of Consciousness. My name is Gabreael of Gabreael.com and AgelessKnowledge.com and AgelessKnowledge.tv. And this is the lovely Anastasia of ChakraReader.com. And I'm going to let her kind of take the reins today because we're going to be talking a lot about GMOs. And she is more educated on that subject than I am. But we are going to go over some stuff. The first thing I'd like to start with before we go into GMOs is we're going to talk about how our 100 Days of Consciousness is going personally. Then we're going to take your questions, and then we're going to talk about GMOs. So how's it going for you, Anastasia?
Actually, it's going really, really good. I've been, physically I'm feeling good. Mentally I'm feeling good. Been having some pretty crazy dreams, which is kind of cool. Which are very symbolic of what's going on in my life, other than, a few odd ones here or there, but mostly very symbolic dreams for me. And that's wonderful because it's really helping me with some major changes in some direction in my life, which I've been kind of asking the universe for. So that's been really wonderful. I feel great, and I'm hoping it continues. And you?
I'm doing great. I wish I was, what are you, 90-10 on organic? I'm still probably running about 70-30, but I am trying. I done some things, like I made soup from my garden when I was talking to you the other night and things like that. So my problem is I travel a lot, and so sometimes it makes it kind of hard. And then when you do try to eat organic, you wonder if it's really organic, but you try. So definitely eating healthier. Went to the gym this week, real happy with that. The only problem I have with my eating is at night with cravings. So what I've done is I made up a vegetable tray, and I keep it in my refrigerator for any of you that are struggling with that. Now, I've got a lot of requests on questions for beauty product reviews. We went over a few things. I will do you guys a video just on that, but it will probably be later on in October, maybe even the 1st of November. So I will be doing that. If you have any specific questions, some of the questions you've asked me, which I've already went over, but I'll go over again, is on the foundation and whatnot. So I'll go over that. I'll go over my favorite foundations, my favorite mascaras, my favorite eye makeup, and all that jazz. How about you?
Do you want to go with the questions first, Gab, or do you want me to do mine first?
Go with yours first. I've been talking enough.
Okay. So we have a question from Jace. Oh, sorry, I'll do this one. This is Tia Maria, and she wanted to know what her chakra is. Well, we all have the 7 chakras, and we tend to draw on one or two more than the other. I wasn't going to really kind of get into reading individual people's chakras here because that would take up, if I started, I don't know where it would ever stop. But we all have each of the 7, but we do tend to draw on one or two more so than another one. JC says, is there a difference between the chakras and the aura, or are they the same? They're completely different. Our chakras are the energy centers that are in our body. Our aura is made up of many things, but I feel our chakras come up and kind of envelop and go into our aura, which is sort of like outside of our body. Our chakras are inside of our body. Gab, do you want to add anything to that?
No, you're the chakra expert, not me. I'll take your word for it.
But our aura is out, it encompasses our etheric body, our physical body, our mental body, our spiritual body, and it's outside of us. Whereas our chakras are our energy centers inside of us, so they are a part of our aura, but they are not our aura.
I can tell you that people will tell you I'm a health empath, and I'm not. I tell people that all the time. What I can tell is what is kind of going on in certain areas of the body by the vibrance of the aura and the chakras, whether they're large or small, whether they're colors, or whether there's spots missing in them and things like that. I'm a psychic medium. I specialize in psychic mediumship, and seeing auras are part of that. I actually did an exercise teaching you guys how to see auras, but I have not published that yet. I've got it. I just recorded it. I just haven't published it. But we will be covering how to see auras. So, do you want to go over all your questions? Do you have more questions?
The question going. I'm sorry. About the right, yes. I'm actually going to be doing an update. Probably, I kind of wanted to leave it because there wasn't a lot sort of happening with it. So I want to do it actually this week. So probably Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how things are looking, I will get to the update on our rice experiment and our thoughts and how that's influencing the rice.
Okay, and what she's talking about there is she did an experiment where she put rice in 3 jars, correct?
I did 3 jars. One is love, one is fear, and one I'm just completely ignoring.
Mm-hmm.
And each day I'm sending love to the love and my fears or, just negative energy to the one and then nothing to the other.
Uh-huh. And so that is what she is discussing, and we're going to show the results of what that looks like, saying hateful, vile words to something versus nurturing words, which also doing nothing. And there's several experiments you could do to show this, but white rice seems the easiest for her because she lives in Nova Scotia, and it's kind of cold there right now. I wanted to do plants, but we decided that wasn't the best thing. So your next question, Anastasia.
I think that I covered all of them.
Somebody asked you what the difference was between an aura and a chakra.
What's the difference?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's what we were kind of just discussing. Yeah. Like the chakra is an energy center in your body that's kind of responsible for a physical and an emotional attribute. Yeah. The aura is encompassing of more than just the center of the energy. The energy comes up and it envelops your aura, but it's not your aura. It's 2 separate things. Okay.
Because I think the one little girl wanted to know where hers was. And just so you know, you have more than one.
Everybody's got, we have 7 main ones, but there is all kinds of bud points and other ones. And some people go into the 13 and the ones that go outside the body. And there's bud points in different parts, but there are 7 main energy centers in the body.
All right. Here's some of the questions I've got. And some of your questions I answered directly to you on Facebook. Some of your questions I answered directly to you on YouTube. But here are some that I did not address. Will you be going over universal laws? This is from John. Yes, we will. That's a good question. Candace wants to know on exercise 5, which I just posted, and I'll go into the exercises for anybody who's new in just a second. Is this contact with your spirit guides? Well, that depends, because what you're doing is you're putting it out there asking for guidance in exercise 5. So guidance can be your guides guiding something your direction, whether it's a book, a video, a person. In that form, yeah, it is your guides. Does it mean your guides are going to come down from the heavens and say, hello, this is da da da? Not necessarily. Watch it again and pay attention. Latoya, exercise 4, it worked really good for me, but I attracted 5 cups of coffee each day. How can we control how much? Okay, she's talking about where we were practicing attracting something to you. I would say I want to attract 1 cup of coffee each day. I would say I want to attract 1 cup of coffee this week. That's how you do it. You kind of specify what it is that you want. And Deb, she asked, do you have a class on this? Well, that's what we're going to next. All of this is classes, and what we're doing is the 100 Days of Consciousness, which is me and Anastasia, if you're new to this, vlogging for 100 days about our diet, our exercise, our consciousness. And then when I say our consciousness, this means being conscious of everything that we do, we take into our body, giving thanks, meditating. We haven't discussed that, but we've been meditating, and all this sort of stuff. I have done a series of exercises. I just posted exercise 5 on psychic development and the law of attraction for you guys. You can get those at multiple places. The place I'd like you to get them at is agelessknowledge.com, agelessknowledge.tv. For right now, agelessknowledge.tv will become separate when our Roku channel launches, but right now you can get it there. So I would say go to agelessknowledge.com, click on Days of Consciousness. We also have a YouTube channel. We haven't promoted very much, but there are some things there you don't see anywhere else. And it's youtube.com/agelessknowledge. You can also go to my blog, which is Gabreael.com / we'll just go to Gabreael.com, look to the left and scroll down and click on blog. So there's many places you can do this, but the best place is to go to agelessknowledge.com, click on Days of Consciousness, and that is where all of our videos are being posted. Now you can click on Free Live TV, And there you will see us live when we are broadcasting live. And so there are many exercises. They are free right now. And we are doing right now, focusing on the psychic development one. We have all kinds of exercises coming up. All right, are you ready to get into some GMOs?
I hope so. Well, first I want to say that I'm certainly no expert. I think probably just like everyone else, I started looking at this just for my own health, my kids' health and family health, and I've always kind of been like a health nut for like many years. So I'm definitely always looked at the food as an aspect of it. So I'm not an expert. I want to say that up front, but I think that anything I say, don't just take my word for it. Like look it up. I can't emphasize enough doing your own research on this and coming to your own conclusion and reading about it, because the amount of information that's out there to be absorbed, to understand, to know, you can't even encompass it in hours and hours and hours if you were to talk about it. But I'm going to start and hopefully just go over the basics. Okay, so everybody, if you haven't heard about a GMO, and this is your first sort of introduction, as genetically modified organisms. Sometimes they're called genetic engineered organisms. I can't think of all the names for them, but anything that is modified genetically. So what does that mean? Okay, so what they do is they take, so essentially what a genetically modified organism is when they take a gene from one species and they actually insert it into another species for a variety of reasons. So they will take bugs, bacteria, fish, or beef, or pork, basically DNA, and then they will insert it into like a carrot, a tomato, a fish, anything else. So they're basically inherently modifying the DNA of whatever they are inserting it into. Okay, so who are they? Well, I guess the biggest company that does this is Monsanto. There are other companies that do a lot of GMO, but Monsanto, I think, is the biggest company, and they certainly hold the monopoly on the market. Monsanto was formed in 1901. You should know this about this company when I'm about to tell you, because it sort of gives you an idea of why it's important that we take a firm stance on our food and what's kind of going on in the world. So Monsanto was formed in 1901, and I think they were formed with a sweetener that they actually gave to Coca-Cola. That was one of their first products that they had done, and it's not really a healthy sweetener, but it was called Sectrin, and it went to Coca-Cola. In the 1920s, they started getting more into the chemical aspect of things, so they brought us Agent Orange, TCP, and DDT, and they have recently bought us recombinant bovine hormone, all of which they have told us are very safe, and we all know that Agent Orange, PCB, and DDT is not safe. So now they are telling us that genetically modified organisms are completely safe. And I think one of their biggest premises for bringing us genetically modified food is to, quote unquote, feed the world. And this is kind of like an oxymoron to me, because they're not trying to feed the world, because they have spent the majority of their money trying to keep labeling secret. They spend the other half of their money going after farmers that infringe on their patent rights. It's completely, it's just an oxymoron. So the first genetically modified food that we were brought, I believe, was somewhere in the 80s. I can't remember the exact date. I have it written down here somewhere. Yes, 1983. And it really kind of got into the crops in 87. The first thing that I think hit the grocery stores was a tomato that was genetically modified. And they say it tastes the same, it's all the same, and we're going to feed the world. The other thing with genetically modified seeds is that they're like suicide seeds. You can use them once, and then you have to repurchase them and purchase them. So it's kind of hard to feed the world with Terminator seeds.
Now, on the tomato, because I know and you know what they mix the tomato with, but this will gross a lot of people out. Tell them what they genetically modified, what they put into that tomato.
I believe it was fish, was it not?
Yeah, I think it was flounder. I might be mistaken, but it was fish. Yeah, it's disgusting.
It was fish. And I'm going to go into some of the health things, but I just kind of wanted everybody to know like what's out there first as far as genetically modified food. So between 1997 and 99, 2/3 of the processed food in North America were genetically modified. So at this point, we're probably hitting close to 100% of anything that's processed. So if you're not buying organic and you're just going into the store and you're buying something that is processed, that is not a whole food, you are eating a genetically modified food. The problem is we can't know this because we don't have any labeling laws. We don't have any labeling because Monsanto doesn't want us to label this food because they feel it will confuse, I believe, is the consumer. I don't think it would confuse us. I think it would give us an understanding of what's in the food, and we have a right to know what we eat. And we should. I mean, if we can't get them to label it, then we need to educate ourselves. We can't always get a company to do what is right, morally or ethically, but we can educate ourselves and make that choice. So if they're not going to label it, then we need to educate ourselves, our family, our friends, and let the word be spread. So, definitely you want to make sure you're eating organic. But just to give you an idea, so we've got the processed food, which is like mostly all genetically modified. And then I went down a list of food that you wouldn't, that's a whole food that you might purchase that would be genetically modified. So we have honey because they're eating off of the canola fields that are all genetically modified. You have cotton, you have rice, you have soybean, you have sugarcane, tomatoes, corn, sweet corn, peas, vegetable oil, sugar beet. All of our dairy, because all of the animals that are not organically raised are eating genetically modified corn and soybeans and all this stuff, so they are then becoming genetically modified themselves. We have canola, potatoes, flax, papaya, squash, cottonseed, all of the meat. And the one thing that I think that I just kind of wanted to touch on a little bit, because we all take different vitamins and supplements, but if you are not having organic vitamins, vitamin C is made from corn, vitamin E is made from soy. So if you're just getting a vitamin E,
I just learned something. I did not know that.
So if you were just going in and getting like a vitamin C or a vitamin E, then you know what, chances are you're getting something that's genetically modified. Also, B2, 6, and 12 is all made from corn. So those are things that you wouldn't necessarily think about being genetically modified, but unless you are getting your vitamins as organic or a pure sourced vitamin, you're going to have genetically modified vitamins. So what does that mean? Okay, so you're changing the DNA structure of the plant. The plant is then fed to the cow or the pig, and then you're changing their DNA structure. Then you're putting it in your own body. So you essentially are changing your DNA structure, and you're not really doing it for the better. I mean, you can go online, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of independent studies of what this does in your body. So I'm going to go over some of the lists of some of the things that have happened. And I mean, there's everything from like death to allergy reactions and that kind of thing in animals. But I think the biggest thing that I think people really need to know about, number one, is infertility. In fish, they were infertile within 2 generations. In rats and mice and that kind of thing, it took 3 generations, and it rendered the animal sterile. So if you are eating genetically modified, pardon me, Dad?
I know several women who have battled with infertility, and I know them personally. When I look at their diets, almost everything is processed food, fast food. And, some people you can try to tell them, but it's just like they look like deer in headlights. They're just like, why would somebody do this? Why would they put this into our food? It sounds really crazy, but you can Google GMO foods and find tons and tons of information. I guarantee you this is true and this is being done. Go ahead, Anastasia.
In the animal studies, like they found infertility, which is big because, I mean, it's affecting not only you, but it's going to affect your children. Like it's within so many generations. You have accelerated aging. That's another big one. Insulin regulation, it becomes a problem with genetically modified food. Changes in our organs, like huge changes in our organs, our brain function, our liver function, our kidney function, all of these functions. And also, too, the other big one is holes in our gastrointestinal tract. That is a big one. This whole leaky gut syndrome is actually, becoming quite large due to genetically modified foods. So what does that mean? It means what happens is even if it's just a small, tiny little leak, leaks into the rest of our system through these holes that's created from the genetically modified new body that we are now receiving thanks to our genetically modified food. And then what happens is our body tries to fight it. So we develop sensitivities and allergies. Now, as we continue, if we don't stop eating genetically modified food, we end up with more sensitivity and allergies. And there have been some major allergic reactions to genetically modified food. When the people have been taken off the genetically modified food and eat an organic diet, they don't have that same sensitivity to, say, organic corn or organic flax or organic rice. It is from the genetically modified because our bodies aren't designed. There is a process in nature, and we're screwing with it. Pardon my French, and it's not good. And we're messing with things we have no business messing with. And to me, it's chasing after the dollar, which we're destroying our environment, we're destroying humanity, we're destroying our animals for $1. In most countries, there is labeling required. North America is the biggest place where they have fought labeling. That's the list of countries that I think, Gab, where they have labeling. And in the bottom there, where she says no labeling, that is United States, Canada, and Mexico. They do not label.
Everybody thinks we're crazy. They really do. In Europe and stuff, they think we're crazy. Not, to be eating this. It's kind of like we're going the way of Rome. If you love your family, if you love yourself, you will eat organic. You start simple. Start with what I tell people. Start simple. Maybe start buying organic milk. Start there. If you drink milk, maybe then start with buying a percentage of your vegetables organic. And if you say, well, I don't have a Whole Foods, or I don't have a Trader Joe's, or I don't, well, you know what? Talk to farmers at your flea markets, at your produce markets, things like that. You can container grow. If you live in an apartment, you can plant tomato plants in containers and do windowsill gardens. There's always a solution. You've got to start. It's just unbelievable what it's doing to our health. There's also, a lot of things that people suspect, like why is our rate of autism so high in America? Well, some people say vaccines. Well, I got vaccinated. There wasn't very much autism around then. I really, really believe that the culprit there, it could be a combination of the vaccines and the GMOs, or maybe just the GMOs. I'm not sure. But there's a lot of studies looking at those sort of things going on right now. And when you think about corn, think about how many of our products have maize in them, which is corn. It's just unbelievable. So it's really scary when you start looking at the foods. So if nothing else, why not label them? Just simply label them. So those of us who choose not to eat fish tomatoes don't want to eat fish tomatoes. Things like that. That's it. Just label it. But I do also want you guys to know that we've been doing a lot of anti-GMO promoting with Ageless Knowledge, and they have given us a time. They have flagged our YouTube videos. They have declined our advertising. We've had a time. We've had posts to totally disappear off of Facebook, and a lot of the groups and stuff that do heavy GMO advertising, anti-GMO advertising, have been saying for a while that they're having a lot of censorship with Monsanto. And I think Anastasia can go into that further about how Monsanto is actually inbred into our government here in the United States.
I don't know. I can't tell you. I wouldn't want to quote all the particulars, but a lot of times what happens is somebody that's worked on Monsanto then goes over and gets hired by the FDA or appointed there, and then they pass all the regulation, and then they go back to Monsanto. I don't have the person's name, but that was one of the big ones there.
There's actually a list printed off I did have for a show I did with Steve. I don't know where I put it, of former Monsanto employees that work for the government. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's all to me, and it's my opinion, but it's all about the almighty dollar. It doesn't matter the destruction to the environment, to humanity, to the animals. We're just destroying it for a quick turnover of $1. You're not going to find this reported on mainstream media so much because, well, let's see, that's not going to go over well. They have spent literally millions of dollars fighting against a labeling campaign. If they are making this product to do as they say, which is feed the world and do it better, they would want it labeled. They are not making this product for that reason. That you can go into all the reasons and propose why they're making it, but it basically comes down to the dollar and a lot of other things. But they're not doing it out of compassion to feed the world, because if they were, they would take all this money they spend trying to fight labeling and take it and put it into feeding the world, and they're not doing it. They're just not. And Monsanto is a very strong-armed company. There are hordes upon hordes and hordes of stories of how they have spent their power and their money to strong-arm farmers, this kind of thing. I mean, you can, like I said, don't just take our word for it and go look it up. But more importantly, with this 100 Days of Consciousness, too, is think about what you're putting in your body. I mean, a lot of people can turn a blind eye because they think, well, all I'm seeing is a tomato. I'm not seeing the fish. I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing that. But if you could actually look at all of your food and say, where did this come from? How was it grown? And what's in it? And if you could really know what was in the genetically modified food, you would not put, to me, something that was going to cause disease and destruction into your body. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't drink a cup full of chemicals. You wouldn't put GMO in your body.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes back to your rice experiment, showing, what, thoughts, emotions, and whatnot go into and what it does to our food. So
Yeah.
one of the things that we are doing during 100 Days of Consciousness, we're praying, we're meditating, and we're really being conscious about what we put into our food, saying a prayer over it, and trying to eat as healthy as possible, because it's really hard to be fit spiritually if you're not fit physically. I'm not saying that every sick person can't be a spiritual person, but it makes it more difficult. Don't you think so as well?
I think anything that you're putting in your body to fuel it, to feed it, to make it, like to heal it, right? You want to make sure it's of its purest form that you can get your hands on. Why would you put something in your body that is going to cause disease or anything else? Like why? Like you wouldn't do it. I could pour a cup of chemicals and say, have this for a drink, Gab. You wouldn't want to do it. You wouldn't want to see, how that fish DNA is put into that tomato and cut that up and eat it. You wouldn't want to see how sick the animals are getting from this just prior to having, like milk extracted and then drink that glass of milk. You want to make sure your food is organic.
Absolutely. Do you have anything else you want to say on GMOs?
Like a lot of people call them frankenfoods and whatnot. I just think that the ramifications of genetically modified food hasn't even begun to be seen in our bodies and in nature and in the world. And if whatever you can do to not participate in genetically modified food, do it. Like I watched that movie. There's some great movies out there. There's Food Inc. There's Food Matters. There's so many movies out there, and the one thing that they said, and I really agree, is every time you put your dollar down at the grocery store, you are placing your vote. You are placing your vote whether you want an organic food product. You are placing your vote whether you support genetically modified food, and you are also, I guess I want to say, making that decision for your body and your future children's body, your grandchildren. If you're young, and you're just, if you're 20 years old and you haven't had any kids, you are making a decision that will affect 3 generations, and I mean, I know that I am, my kids have called me the food police because I've been really strict on this, and my youngest had asked me once, she said, well, what, in a nutshell, she said, what is it you think that genetically modified food will do? And this is a little harsh, but I said this. It is going to make you basically sick, sterile, and stupid.
That's truth. It's true. I know people who eat so much processed food that they are so foggy that they can't even read a book. I've had them say to me, I can't read. It's hard for me to read. I can't read more than a paragraph or 2 at a time. Well, my challenge to them would be go totally organic for 6 weeks and see how much of that brain fog is removed. It's amazing at how fast our body will repair itself. And it is amazing at how the effects are on, with this. I can tell you one for me was my son had been very sick, and I was like constantly at doctor's appointments and whatnot with him. And I was not drinking any soda. Well, I started drinking diet soda. I got so foggy headed. It was unbelievable. And my blood sugar shot up, and I got so deathly sick. And that's really how I found out about GMOs, because I was trying to figure out what on earth was going on with me, because I would eat a salad and get sick. And that's when I realized that, you know, a lot of what I was putting into my body was genetically modified, and that's what was making me sick. And I felt so much better. I've lost so much weight, losing more, because I totally changed the way that I think about food. I totally changed the way that I eat. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take each one of us changing that for ourselves. It's just a shame that all these countries, while we're sitting here doodling, all these countries have done this, but us. I mean, look at this list. This is crazy. This is about everybody in the world. Most developed nations have banned GMOs because they know it's not right. It's not right, and it's what they call a soft kill or a slow kill. Let's go to that briefly. Now, my thoughts on GMOs, there's a lot of stuff out there with like the Illuminati, the New World Order, and all that. I don't know about all that. There's some even believe aliens are doing it. I don't know about all that. But my take on it seems to be that maybe at some point they did do it to do something with world hunger, and greed took over. And now it is just a monster that is out of the cage that they just can't control. What are your thoughts on why they're doing it, Anastasia?
You know what? Like, this company has definitely not got high moral, ethical background. Okay, let's look at Agent Orange, GDT, PCB.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they didn't start out saying, okay, you know, whatever. It's just, I think their drive is, you know, again, it's greed. It's just not standing on any kind of spiritual or moral ethical ground in any way, shape, or form. And I mean, the almighty dollar, and one hand washes the other. You do this, I'll do this. And then, like you said, it's just like way out of control. If I could say one thing, like when you're asking about like foods and stuff, the one food that if you ever have it on anything you're eating is do not eat it, is high fructose corn syrup. And if you look, it is in just about every prepackaged food. It's in like everything. That is like, to me, one of the worst things you can put in your body.
Mm-hmm. Like,
not only is it genetically modified, it'll send your sugar levels crazy. It's just like the most horrific food to eat. Well, it's not really a food. I don't even like to call this food because it's not food. I don't know what it is, but it's not food.
Yeah, there's a lot of strange ingredients in a lot of the processed food too. It's just weird. Um, Again, I would like to say to people, start simple. You know, don't get all freaked out. Start with something simple like the milk you drink, or deleting pop or soda from your diet. And you can take sparkling water. Anastasia gave me this one, and like apricot juice, and mix it together, and it makes a really good drink. You can start with all sorts of things. Just start small and then work towards that. That's how I did it, and it's made a huge difference. My husband, when you cut yourself the full food, please. It's really funny because one of my team members, me and him and her, went out the other night, and she was calling him the food police because everywhere we talked about stopping and eating, he had a list of what they put into their food. It was really, really funny. But you do start looking at it very differently and thinking about it differently. And then when you go out to eat and you do eat something, it's amazingly at how terrible you feel, because you're going to be amazed once you do start going organic and how terrible you feel once you put this stuff back into your body, because it's like, I don't know, like I'll go gluten free with this. We'll discuss gluten's another show, but I'll go gluten free for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then I just break down and I eat some. And I get so swollen. There's some videos that I've got where it looks like I'm swollen. It's because I do. I swell in my face, my hands, everywhere. I can gain as much as 3 inches in my waist, maybe even 4. I think 3.5 is what I measured from eating something as simple as pizza. That's just unbelievable. It's just crazy. And a lot of people, I believe, are so sick and feel so bad that they've gotten used to it. They don't even know they feel bad, Anastasia. Don't you think so?
No, I think there is a level that you know, like you talk about your vibration and where we're vibrating it, and that, you know, the 100 Days of Consciousness is all about that. And there's such a lower level of vibration when you're feeding your body not good stuff, and then when you start feeding your body what it needs, it's amazing. And I can honestly say, my kids will probably kill me for this, but I can tell you the day that they've eaten something that is not good. I can tell you in their mood, in their way of being, like this isn't good. We need to, we need to clean up. What did we have? What did we do? What did we eat? Because it's not good.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people on antidepressants and whatnot, and I've known several people to get off of them because they went to organic. But some people are just lazy. They just say, well, I'll just keep popping the pills and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's all affecting your pancreas, your liver, and not to mention the GMOs that you're taking in. But it really is about a decision that you make personally. And we have to all make those decisions, each and every one of us. But I can tell you that going organic, I have been a lot more in tune, intuitively. It just clears out your brain. It just, so much of that brain fog and all that clears up. And we'll have to do another show, Anastasia, on fluoride. It's just a whole show to itself. But I do want to throw in, drink unfluorinated water, all right? Drink unfluorinated water. And we'll go into all the reasons why in another show. All right, is there anything else today, Anastasia?
No, I think that's about it. I would like to just put in a word. Like I think you and I had discussed in the future that we're going to do a show on self-love.
Yep.
And if I could just put a note out to people that, like, just even over the next week, if they could, I mean, I know this is like just so much information. Don't eat this, and then I want to say, if you could just like keep a little note, like with just like a little ticker thing, like how you do that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every time you have a negative thought, just take note of it. If you could just spend the next week even doing that, because I just would really like to show people how many times we are like completely unaware of how many negative thoughts we're having towards ourselves or someone else or something or whatever. And then if we could just kind of keep track of that, then we can become consciously aware of what it is we're doing, what we've been doing and what we're doing unconsciously, that we can actually change and put out like a higher vibration. And then I have this one book that I want to recommend on GMOs. My son got it for me a couple of years ago for my birthday, and it's called Seeds of Deception. And it comes in a trilogy. You can order it online. I really, really recommend it. There's a lot of great information in here.
There is. And again, for those of you doing the psychic development exercises, I posted exercise number 5 last night. Anastasia also has her rice experiment posted. And so there you go. We look forward to talking to you guys next Sunday, same time, same place, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And have a good day.